moment that BRICS is defending a multipolar world, he is going against the privilege of few that tries to maintain in a very unrealistic way a world of a single state as the hegemon. BRICS has been redefining diversity, not as a risk or a weakness, but the richness or the strength of BRICS. One big idea of China is the idea that modernization has different paths. All these ideals are not imposed through a top-down perspective, but that have been in dialogue, have been negotiated with the states.
Marta, welcome to Diplomacy Talk. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for the invitation.
What stands out to you on this visit to China compared with your previous trips?
It's my third time here in China, and I'm always impressed by the ability that the country has to combine its cultural heritage with the high technology and modernity. For me, it's very impressive the capacity of China to maintain past alive and at the same time to be focused on the future. And during my visit now, I went for the first time to the museum of the Communist Party, and I was impressed by how China combined this idea of socialism with something that is very historical, cultural, that has these historical roots.
How would you describe your perception on China and its role on the global stage?
China now is the second global economy. It's important to say that China is becoming a partner of the global south. It's not imposing its view from a unilateral perspective, but in a very collective way, trying to listen in the global south countries. So I think that China has many advices to give to the global south countries. For example, the way to fight against hunger.
Western media view BRICS either as a challenge to Western economic dominance or as a geopolitical rival to the G7. Do you see BRICS in this light or more as a platform for promoting multipolarity?
On the one hand, BRICS is trying to present itself not as an anti-Ester bloc. At the same time, BRICS is advancing and defending a multipolar world in all domains, in economic domains, in the cultural domains, in the monetary domains. And BRICS is advancing the trade in local currencies. This is seen as a provocation by the United States. President Trump said that if BRICS continues to advance this agenda of having an alternative currency or trying to promote the trade in local currencies, he will impose tariffs on the group. It's the first time that Trump did these provocations against a bloc and not against a single state. So the moment that BRICS is defending a multipolar world, he is going against the privilege of few that tries to maintain in a very unrealistic way a world of a single state as the hegemon.
With BRICS now expanding, some critics worry that greater diversity would weaken its unity and decision-making. Do you see this as a real risk?
No, on the contrary, BRICS has been redefining diversity, not as a risk or a weakness, but the richness or the strength of BRICS. The West have viewed difference and diversity as something bad, as a problem that or have to be eliminated or converted. For example, in the Bretton Woods institutions, because there is some liberal idea that in some way function as conditionalities to a country to receive money from these institutions, they have to adopt the liberal script. So they have to adopt a system of governance according to Europeans and North Americans' ideals. They have to convert themselves. These ideas have been in some way resignified by BRICS, because what BRICS is saying is that diversity is something very positive. Many analysts, when BRICS emerged, they have said that BRICS will not last because the countries are very different. Now BRICS have 10 full members, and BRICS not only survive, but BRICS are seen as much more influence in the international arena. So the idea that BRICS brings is this idea that each country has the right to have their local currencies and trade in their own local currencies, have their own language, their own cultural histories.
With the global order in flux, from the China-US competition to growing calls for multipolarity, what do you see as BRICS' most achievable role in the coming decade? Should it focus on reforming the existing institutions, building new ones, or shaping global rules?
BRICS is trying to reform the international institutions that were created after the Second World War. When these institutions are created, great part of the world, of Africa, of Asia, is under colonial rule. So they did not exist as states. And these institutions were created in a very hierarchical way. So what BRICS is trying to defend is the reform of these institutions. For example, the reform of the United Nations Security Council, the reform of the Bretton Woods institutions, where the United States until now has a veto power, but at the same time, BRICS is constructing new arrangements, as in the case of the NDB. The NDB is the Bank of the BRICS, as a way to become an alternative vis-à-vis the Bretton Woods institutions. The NDB operates by a different logic. They did not impose conditionalities. They don't want to convert the states to a single model. And they are in some way investing a lot in the developing countries and in green infrastructure. So it's an alternative arrangement. BRICS is trying to reform the liberal international order of the post-Second World War, because BRICS countries understand that this order is very exclusionary, and they want that these institutions give more voice and vote to the global South countries, but at the same time, they are trying to create their own institutions where they can, in some way, present an alternative view of development.
Brazil is enjoying a trade surplus with China, mainly exporting raw materials while importing manufactured products from China. Is there any concern in your country that the influx of Chinese products could hold back the development of your country's own industries?
If you consider the trade relations between Brazil and China, as you said, we export commodities, mainly soybeans, iron ore, mineral oils, and we import products of high values, technology, nuclear reactors, for example. Some people see this as complementarity, and other people see this as international division of trade, of labor. What is happening now is that gradually the content of the trade is changing. China is more prone to transfer technology to Brazil, especially green technology, and this is an opportunity that I think that now it's open to Brazil.
China has rolled out several major initiatives in recent years, including the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative. Now the Global Governance Initiative. How do you view China's pattern of introducing new frameworks? Do you see it as constructive leadership or as a move to dominate the global agenda?
China is introducing a new grammar to the world. For example, the win-win cooperation against the idea of the zero-sum game and all this kind of idea of common future of mankind, etc. China and Brazil understand that to maintain stability and to have some promise of a future of peace, it's very important to look to development. For example, if you don't eradicate hunger, you never will have peace. So these dimensions are very connected. The dimension of development, the dimension of security, and also the civilization dimension. They are very connected. One big idea of China is the idea that modernization has different paths. There is not only one idea of modernization, as for example the West believes. There is not one single way. So the idea that have been flourishing in BRICS, for example, is the idea that there are multiple ways to modernize. But these multiple ways of modernized societies have to be connected with local realities, with the material conditions of societies. So it's very important that all these ideals are not imposed through a top-down perspective, but that have been in dialogue, have been negotiated with the states and tailored, adapted to the different realities of societies.
Marta, it's a pleasure having you on Diplomacy Talk, and thank you for your insights.
Thank you.